Okay, recording is on. So here if you can see, width of this cell, width of this cell, or width of this column, width of this column, width of this column is not same, uneven, right? Which means that this column should start from here, end on here. This column should start here, end here. At that time you need to pass start and end specifically. Or if you see this, something about this, how do you implement this? All of a sudden something has been changed. To achieve these things, you need start and end specifically. You need what? Start and end specifically. You getting my point or not? Grid like this.
Not much. Because what I was thinking, like yesterday when you mentioned, like start and end is like okay. For example, I have 5 divisions, and then like okay, I can start from second one and
Correct.
the third one.
Or
So for that reason, on a singular row
take
or
take this
column
example.
basis,
Take
yeah,
this example.
and as this evenly placed, we can do it.
Correct. But here if you see, width of this column is different, width of this column is different, width of this column is different, even height of this complete cell is different than this one. How do you
Right, but
implement
we
this?
can see, I would say, like how to use start and end like column or row in this one because we can see a perfect rectangle here,
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
So
but
I got this one, but for the other image, I am not able to get it.
yeah, forget about that image, that was little bit too much, so forget
Okay,
about
okay.
that
This
image.
one I'm able to get it like okay, because we can see the evenly placed boxes. We are just increasing like columns or
Correct.
row in that case. But yeah, I'm able to get it.
That's what only. So if you want to implement this thing, you need grid start, grid end.
Oh, got it. Yep.
Correct? Let's open the official documentation. And they have, yesterday I told you, there is one example. Just a minute. CSS grid layout. Now see, they have given example of that. Can you see that here? Hello?
Yes.
This is the grid. And if you want to implement that grid, these are the boxes. Display column, auto row, what is this we will see. But can you see grid column, grid row, grid column, grid row. Now you know what is a grid column. What is a grid column? Can you tell me what is a grid column?
It's for like horizontal starting position and the span.
So there should be one more answer, which is more precise. What do you mean by grid?
It's a 2D thing.
When you talk about grid column, it is a shorthand notation for grid column start, grid column end. Grid column start, grid column end. Then grid row is a shorthand notation for grid row start, grid row end. Correct? So both the things are happening over here. 1 by 3 like this. Okay. Now day 24, day 24. Let's have, now this is a homework for you. You need to implement this code. This is the homework. So whatever, just copy paste, and you need to understand what's happening exactly. This code. Hello?
Yes, yes, yeah. Just paste the link. So, yeah.
Official. Okay, not this. Where is Notion? Notion. Okay, and here I can say index 01 dot html, app 01 dot html, sorry, app 01 dot css, app 01 dot css. HTML5, and here grid content, and here I can say homework dot txt, implement grid, or instead of txt let's have md file. Here I can say implement grid example given at this link. Okay, this is what you need to do. This is a homework. Now related to the grid content, yesterday we didn't say anything about grid content. Grid layout, justify content, align items, align content, that we didn't see. Okay, or before that, grid area or grid template area. Before going to the content related thing, this template areas we need to see. Grid template areas. Now what is grid template areas? Yesterday you have done a lot of things. So I go here and let's create first section div 1, 2, 3 and 9. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. And then class we can create grid container. Grid container. Let's go to the CSS, HTML, body, width 100 VW, height 100 VH. Dot grid container display grid and see here we are not providing grid template columns, grid columns. Instead of that, grid template areas. So we would be having 4 columns. So you can write something like this. Just a minute. 1 2 3 4. Something is wrong. Now I will come back to this point shortly, but before that, section, and inside the section if there are divs, we can give background color caddet blue, font size 30 pixel or 1 em. Okay, a child selector, CSS not added, link rel CSS, app01.css, reveal in finder, it looks like this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Let's add some gap 8 pixel, correct, gap 8 pixel, say 3 em, little bit bigger. Now grid template, this thing, grid template areas. Still you don't know what do you mean by grid template areas. Okay, so here you have said that some 4 dots you have said over here, display grid and 4 dots you have said. So I can create a class dot area. Here we can say dot area. So just a minute. Here we can say item 1, and I'm going to name this as grid area and item 1. Grid area item 1, or here we can say cell 1, anything, absolutely anything. Refresh it, there is no change. Now see, dot represents no area. Dot represents no area, empty. But here I can write cell 1. Here I can write what? Cell 1, name of this area. This also cell 1. Refresh it. Okay, class item 1 we didn't add it. Class item 1. Yeah, can you see? So here is the chart. What you have here, you can say out of the 4 columns, 2 columns are cell 1. You can add like this also. So here also cell 1 dot refresh it. Can you see now? This much is the cell 1. Hello? This much is the cell 1. Similarly, you can create item 2, or instead of saying item 2, just say item 2 dot item 2, and here I can say grid area cell 2. So here you can say cell 2. Refresh it. Okay, just add class item 2. Refresh it. Can you see? See, grid 1 width is this much, or if you want this to be as a cell 1, that is also okay. So little rearrangement will happen.
Yeah, like how are we defining what will be there in cell 1, cell 2? Like there are no dimensions, right? So is it like it's taking automatically like in cell 1?
No, if you look at this table is your row and column. So this is one column, this is another column, this is another column, this is another column. So this is the second row, first column, second row, second column.
No, that I, but I'm not like I'm asking is like, okay, we have not given width and height to a particular cell.
So grid will decide that.
Okay.
So yesterday also we didn't give width anywhere.
Right.
Yesterday also we didn't give width anywhere, but you can give width also. Cell 2, here I can say this would be the cell 2. Refresh it. Can you see cell 2 over here? Here also you can say cell 2 like this. Can you see? This is the first cell, second cell. So yesterday, if you want to achieve this, just imagine how much code you need to type. So here what's happening, you have a visual representation of the grid in front of you, how your grid will look like. How your grid will look like, that visual representation is in front of you. And here you are assigning this is a item 1, this is a item 2, correct? Item 1, item 2. So this item will occupy 2 columns of the grid and 2 rows of the grid. 2 columns of the grid and 2 rows, this row, this row. Grid row start, grid row end. Grid row start, grid row end. Grid column start, grid column end. So grid template areas, you need to remember about grid template area, grid template areas. So here you need to create the table structure whatever you want, and you need to assign the grid areas. Here you need to assign what? Grid areas. Okay. Let's take more realistic example. New file, index02.html and app02.css. app02.css, html5, and here you can say grid more real example, link app02.css. So here I would be having section id is equals to page header. So what we want to achieve, the example we have seen in the beginning, I'm saying this one. So this is the header, this much is the header, this much is the footer, this is the left menu, and this is the main content. Do you remember we have implemented this in the flex? Yes or no? Sorry, we have implemented this. We have implemented this or not? Header, footer. Hello?
Yeah,
Header, footer, nav, left menu. We implemented or not?
yeah, yeah.
Now, same thing we will implement. Then here we can say nav, and I can say navigation. Then main footer, and what footer. So these things are my, what you can say, these things are basic things, and I want this to be implemented in this form. So header, left menu, here we can say footer, and this is content. That's what we are achieving. So first, HTML body width 100 VW, height 100 VH, then hash page. Deliberately I am using something different just for revising you. Grid width 100%, width what? 100%. Now here I can create grid template areas. Grid template areas. So first let's create the area. I can say hash page arrow header would be the grid area, and head I can say hash page arrow nav means child of the page, that is nav. You remember this or not? This is the id selector, and inside id selector, if there is a header, that header we can give a background color and coffee. Okay, this one, header, then navigation means left navigation, grid area nav, here I can say grid area nav, background color chocolate or coral, named colors. Then hash page main, which is nothing but this, we are targeting name of that area, grid area, and here we can say main. Background color, let's give some background color, yellow green, and the footer, hash page footer, grid area black, instead of black, foot, and background color dark cyan. So we define names of areas. We have defined what? Names of areas. Now let us imagine whole this thing, this is a one column, sorry, this is a one column, this is another column. So this is a two column grid. Technically this is a two column grid. This is a two column grid. And how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3. Correct? 1, 2, 3 rows. These are 2 columns. 3 rows, 2 columns. So here we can define those also. Grid template rows. We need to define height of the rows specifically. So first row is nothing but your this head, sorry, grid template rows. So first we can give the height. Here we can give a 10%, then 80% and 10%. So 3 rows I would be needing. So this would be 10%, 80%, 10%. Then what about column? Column widths also we can define. Grid template columns. So this width you can say 20% and 80%. So here we can say 20% and 80%. So total should be 100. Total should be 100. Now main thing, go on saying which area is designed for what. So 2 columns we have, remember that. 2 columns we have. So here I need head, here I need head. Then nav I would be needing, then main, then nav, and then foot. Go here, okay, file name is different, index02.html. okay, what happened? Height 100%. See now, header navigation, main, footer by using grid. By using what? Grid layout. Getting my point? Over here you defined everything. How much would be head, how much would be nav, how much would be main, and the footer. Nav, footer. So here you can write foot also. Refresh it. You can see. So whole is the footer. This much is the navigation. And this is the main. Any question? Okay, let me first push this much code. Grid. Go through the code and check both the examples. Grid template areas. I have pushed the code. Go through the code. What about Notion? Grid template areas. Yeah. Any questions?
No, as of now.
Anyone is having any questions? Go ahead and ask me. Grid template areas, CSS properties specified, named grid areas, establishing the cells in the grid and assign them names. Those areas are not associated with any particular grid item, but can be referenced from the grid placement properties. Values none. Values, the grid container doesn't define any named grid areas. You need to give it, right? Correct? So this is about
No. Yeah, we have defined basically. We're just like placing the like in which like in which pattern we want.
Correct. So here you said I need three columns, sorry, three rows, and here you said I need two columns. Three rows, two columns. First column width 20%, then 80%. But same thing we have implemented in the flex as well. Is that clear?
Yes. Yes.
Now, what's remaining? Now, if I can add justify content center, refresh it. Okay, nothing will happen right now. Let's make height 50%. Align items center, or I need to create a separate things now. Align items center. Okay. Align items. So here I cannot show you center. Here we can see space between. Just remove the align items. Okay, this will not work. There is a specific reason. Height is edge to edge. That's the concern. So let's create separate thing. Now create the separate HTML, or can we do it here? Index 01. Justify content center. Yeah, see here everything is at the center. Start at the start, at the end, then justify content space around. Can you see? Around each column there is a space. Space between each column there is a space. Correct? Between each column. Presently cells are uneven, that's why you might be saying one over here, but purpose is getting solved. Justify content. Now align content center. Align items center. Align items end. See now, all the things are getting placed at the end. Let's do one thing. Remove this item 1. Remove this item 2. Okay, 9 items are there. And let's give some background color. Background color Greensboro. This much is the grid. Align items end. Start. Okay. Align items, if you can see. This property aligns the grid items along the vertical axis of the grid container. It controls how items are aligned within their individual grid cells. See, it controls how items are aligned within their individual grid cells in the container. Justify content. This property aligns grid items along the horizontal main axis of the grid container. It controls the distribution of the extra space within the grid container. That's what we have seen, space between, space even. Here, start, end and center. If you see here, this aligns grid items along with the vertical axis of the grid container. It controls how items are aligned within their individual cells. Individual cells. Now presently, let's remove these two things from here. And index 03 dot, because we have covered one concept in that file, app 03 dot css html5, and here we can say contents of grid, and link rel css app03.css section. Here we can say HTML body, width 100 VW, height 100 VH. Section display grid. Section display grid. Grid template columns, we can say 3 columns, the way we have defined yesterday. Grid template, here we can say auto, correct? Auto. Div 1 2 3 4 5 6, and section arrow div, section arrow div, these two things. Zero 03 gap 6 px 1 2 3 4 5 6, height 50%. Okay, now here justify content center, justify content center, right? Everything will come at to the center. Then align items center. Align items center. Remember that how much is one cell? This is the cell content. Cell content will come at center. Now let's attach the border 1px solid black. Let's have the border. Oh, this div itself is this thing. We need Now, so this is the div is a content of your grid column. Now, if I make not this and see, it will go, which means that your one cell is this much, and at the end of the cell the content is getting aligned. Hello, you getting my point or not?
Can you like highlight the cell layout if
See the
possible?
inspector, if you go, this is the div. Can you see how much is the cell?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
If you see how
Now.
much is the cell, so cell starts from here and ends till here. Can you see how much is one cell? Now at the end means what? At the end of the cell, the content div is itself a content. Now here if you can go layout, this is the grid, show number of lines, show line names. Yeah, see where is the how much is the cell starts from here and ends
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
So content is at the end of the cell or content is at the center of the cell. That's what the align item. See now, can you see how much is the cell? And exactly at the center you will find there is a cell.
Yeah, as there is no background color border, we are like not able to see properly, but yeah, it's something. Yeah.
Yes. Now one more property, let's comment this out. Align content to end. Now align content means what? See, this much is the grid. Can you see? This much is the grid. All the content of the grid means all the rows either will go to the end or it will go to the start or it will go to the start. Can you see this much is the grid? Content of the grid is nothing but the rows. Rows will either go to the end, start or center. Right? See, center. Or there can be a justify, space between or space around. See here, vertically, little space around here, little space around here, little space around here. You can say space between also. Refresh it. Can you see this much is the grid width, sorry, grid height. So space between this and space between this. When you say align items, when you say align items, it is about the content are aligned within their individual grid. Items align within their, it controls how items align within their individual grid cells. This is important. Align content, the entire grid aligns entire grid within the grid container along with the vertical axis. This is important. Okay. So this is all about what you can say your grid layout. A lot of things are yet there, but as far as the foundation are concerned, this is enough. Once you get the mastery on that, I request you to refer this page. A lot of things you will learn over here. Okay. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
So CSS3 grid layout areas and content. Okay, so this is all about the grade. Tomorrow we'll start with responsive web design. Case study, what is there? Okay, whatever case study is there, we need to develop the bank account form. Okay, no problem. So you can consider that you need to implement first complete social media login screens and the Google index page. Okay, so we have done with this part. Now CSS layouts, responsive web design, we will see. Okay,
Okay.
cool. Then let's call it for a day. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me.
No, yeah.
Okay, I'm stopping the recording.